My name is David McAndrew. I'm the facility team leader, Whole Foods Market Bakehouse. I started baking when I was 16 years old in England. Moved to the United States when I was 19. Been baking ever since. I started with a company that Whole Foods Market acquired, then moved to Florida and took over running their bakehouse. Here at the Whole Foods Market Bakehouse, we produce products for 24 stores in Florida. Breads, croissants, Danish, muffin batters, cookies, cake blanks. The partnership between Whole Foods Market Bakehouse and Funky Buddha Brewery came about. I'd been wanting to make a spent grain sourdough for a few years, but never had the right facility to do it. So once we moved into our new baking facility, I contacted John at Funky Buddha Brewery to discuss about their spent grain and collaborating on making a bread together. John was excited about it, and I picked up some grain after meeting John and started working on the formula.
So David initially reached out to us and asked what we were doing with our spent grain. It was a project I think he wanted to get involved with for a while, and we brought him by the brewery and kind of showed him our process and how we were doing everything, and thought it would be a good idea to try out, making this bread, this sourdough bread with spent grain from our Floridian Hefeweizen, which happens to be our best-selling beer. It's about 50% of the beer we make. We make it all the time, so we have a lot of the grain available, and it also does really well in Whole Foods Market. The spent grain is a byproduct of the brewing process and usually just gets discarded. So I wanted to take something from a company that's already in partnership with Whole Foods Market. So we started working on a scratch formula for sourdough spent grain, and it came about that way. Okay, so this is our bread mixing room where we do all the bread production for the Whole Foods Market Bakehouse. We start off by weighing the flour, adding some soaked teff, millet, and flax seeds. So it's soaked and cooked in sourdough. And then we'll be adding the spent grains, adding some honey that gives it a little bit of sweetness, and sour starter. And then we'll be adding the water and some whole grain flour and start to mix. Okay, now we're going to head to the bread production department and see the bread being made. When the bread comes off the mixer, we pre-scale it to the weight we need, and then it goes into a divider, and it cuts 20 equal pieces in the hand divider, and then we'll hand shape the breads. So they're going to pre-round the breads and let them sit for a few minutes, and then we'll finish rounding them and put them into these floured baskets. So in these baskets they'll raise, and then it'll leave the flour rings on the dough when we take them out to bake them. Okay, so this is our retarder where we overnight the sourdough, and we're going to pull it out this morning and bake it off. We're going to take these out of the baskets onto a loader and bake it on the hearth of the oven with some steam. All right, now we're going to go check out the bread that's coming out of the oven. Okay, so here we are with a fresh baked Funky Buddha spent grain sourdough bread. It's nice and crusty. It's just out of the oven. You can see the rings left from the baskets that we were talking about earlier. And you can see where they scored the bread. It's got a nice golden crust to it. And when you open it up, you can see the grains inside, and that's our spent grain sourdough bread. We've been talking with Whole Foods about ways to collaborate and work closer together on a number of levels, so it just seemed like a great fit for us to work with them on it.
We have, done a lot of collaborations with restaurants and people who carry our beer out there, and we do them when they feel right and organic. And being that Whole Foods has this amazing Bakehouse facility, which is right down the road from the brewery, it feels hyper local to us. Even though it's a national chain, it feels like these guys are in our backyard.
Customer feedback on the bread has been great. We've got emails from customers saying how much they love it. Funky Buddha has got a lot of positive feedback on the bread. They have almost a cult following that loves their beer and now is loving the bread too.
The creation of Craft Food Counter and Kitchen. This is something that has been a long time in the making for us. We opened up in June 2013 in Oakland Park with our production facility and tap room. And we always had food trucks out of the brewery, but we never had food of our own. And we wanted to kind of take that step by step. We brought a great chef on board, Chef Jeff Vincent from the Atlantic Hotel in Fort Lauderdale Beach, and he helped us, build this amazing kitchen in the brewery. The response so far has been great. We've been open about a month. We opened on November 11th, 2015, and people are loving it. They're loving the food, they're loving the beer, and the food together, and they're definitely loving the beer cheese soup in the Floridian spent grain sourdough bread bowls.
Since we launched the bread 6 weeks ago, we've moved about 10,000 loaves of the bread, and customer feedback has been great. Currently we only sell in the Florida region, but if there's interest outside the region, we can sell there too.